Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, bots and cons to Tech Talk, the officially unofficial Transformers TCG podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Scott of VectorSigma.info. And Scott, it sounds like you got a lot of company.
Yep, walking the dogs.
Yep. Well, they need their time, too. As it turns out, our smoke alarms, I guess, were going off very early in the morning, so our dog was not happy about it. Yeah, thankfully, there wasn't anything on it. Just, what was that?
I saw your wife say that.
Yeah, I love Harley. We are blessed with a very good dog, but man, she is a coward.
Yeah.
Everything. It's hilarious. So yeah, she was not happy. Well, none of us were happy about the smoke alarm going off. Thankfully, it wasn't anything serious. It was just it caught a whiff of whatever. So
it's low battery.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So well, I guess it's better. It's one of those things. This is the least of the two options, like this,
right.
You'd rather this than the alternatives. So
yeah,
at least we know they're working. But anyway,
yeah.
Home safety aside, we'll get back on topic. So I don't have a actual visual for this one because this was released actually, again, as per the norm, barely before we started. So we actually had an announcement from Past Times about PAX Unplugged, and we've gotten some additional details specifically about the Last Chance qualifiers. So did anything jump out to you, Scott? I mean, there isn't a whole lot of meat on these bones, but I wanted to bring it up since it's, kind of the big deal.
Not that I didn't know already that it was starting every hour or whatever, but
right.
You looked into it more carefully than I did because I don't know. I guess you just had more time.
Yeah, well, I was poking around in it just to see exactly what they were, what the details were. Was there anything new, or that I was honestly more looking to see were there other things going on besides the Last Chance qualifiers that would be of interest that we would bring up on the show. The one caveat or detail rather that Scott is referring to is pretty much all of the qualifiers are single elimination. So you go 4-0. You get your invite, you get your points, you get your prize tickets, blah, blah, blah. If you don't get that far, then you do get something if you are 10 to 11 match points in those single elim events. But notably, there is one Swiss event in the earlier, at 6:30, whether you want to call that evening or night or whatever. All the other ones are single elim, so it's jumped out to me that this one happened to be Swiss. It's the quote-unquote mega Swiss Last Chance qualifier. I'm not entirely sure what makes it mega because it seems as though everything is basically identical to the single elim ones. So you're getting prize tickets at 10 to 11 match points, and if you hit 12, you end up getting your Q and the Blaster versus Soundwave. But I'm not sure exactly what's different about it, and that's why it kind of stood out to me. Other than the price is higher, it's $10 higher. So I guess that's to pay for or pay into the Blaster versus Soundwave, because I'm skimming it real quick, and it doesn't look like you get one for the single elim ones. And again, I'm sure all of this is subject to change. It just went up a couple hours ago, so.
It doesn't surprise me.
Right. Nothing really outside of that to me stood out as abnormal. It's kind of what we expected. I'm really looking forward to it. I know you were poking fun at a question of whether those of us that are qualified would be able to play in them. I mean, I'll be honest, if I'm on site, I'm going to want to play. So I'm very interested to see if that ends up being the case.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can get prize tickets, a prize ticket is essentially equal to a pack. So, you're talking about winning, they're win-a-box events, basically pick up win-a-box events. So
exactly. Given the pass downs from before and how all that worked, I don't know if there's no indication that that's going to be the case here. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I'm very curious because, like I said, I'm going to be there. I plan to be there all the days and all day long if I can help it. And I would like to play more Transformers. So hopefully, if worse comes to worse, there's plenty of other stuff going on too. So
yeah, I think they might add things too because I remember there was an interview with Drew, earlier today I was listening to that said that they were still working out some of the schedule kinks, and it sounded like it was relatively recorded only a day or two ago. So I'm surprised that they had this much information, but I wouldn't be surprised if they added things as well.
Oh yeah, that seems to not be out of the realm of possibility. I'd expect that we're going to get something along those lines. Since Drew was doing the gunslinging, I guess, when he was in London, I would not be surprised that something similar happens. Now, at the time of the Invitational, we're already going to have the next wave. Maybe they could be previewing whatever the wave 4.1 piece is, as in, the Metroplex, the Devastator set for it, assuming it doesn't drop on us surprisingly the night before or something. I'd be curious. I'm sure something like that will exist at least.
Yeah, I agree.
So, moving from there, because like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of meat on those bones, but we're going to dive into, excuse me, some of the bigger news, or what I assume everybody was tuning in for, and that's the most recent set of spoilers. Now, we lucked out a bit in that it isn't the fire hose approach in this case. It's more of a manageable chug for the quantity, at least, of spoilers. So
yeah, it seemed to be typical content creators or a few Twitter influencers, but
yeah, a few official ones.
Official articles. But
speaking of official ones, as we found out during our last recording, they've been kind of sneaking in a few spoilers here and there, just quietly into the photo albums. But thankfully, the community as a whole has very much been on top of that and sniffing those out. So they haven't gone unnoticed for very long. But it is of note that it's not strictly going to be big, ceremonial announcements. There are some sneaky ones getting in there.
Yeah.
So let's dive into it. We're going to take the battle cards from the top this time. It's a little more alphabetical than it was the last time for a number of reasons. But our first one up is Energy Transfer. So the short version is it's an orange Callous Leadership, but there's a couple other details. So it's an action that when you play it, move any number of damage counters from one of your characters to one of your other characters, but not enough to KO it. So it has the Elita 1 clause. Is this lighting your fire, Scott? I mean, I don't know. I misread it, or didn't misread it. I just kind of missed the last piece when I first saw this card and said, oh, it's an orange way to off my Battle Master, and that's not actually the case.
Yeah, that would be too good, because you would just transfer 15 damage from your guy that's damaged to some random idiot. So
exactly. When I read that, I immediately followed it up by reading the card again, because I said, "There's no way this is accurate."
Right. So given the increased hit points from this set and the set before, I still think you're going to be able to transfer a decent amount of damage from somebody that's damaged to either somebody that isn't, or even if they already are. No, this card is very good. I mean, you can set up a lot of really good situations with this card. It does not have the leader clause. It does not have the Decepticon clause. It does not have any restrictions other than being orange, and you can't over damage, but you technically can do all 5 with a guy with 1 remaining hit point with Callous Leadership, for example.
Yes.
But I don't see that as that big of a deal. And like you said, it does not fuel the Battle Master play. Which is probably a good thing, I guess.
I think in the grand scheme of things, clearly they thought about that interaction, but I think it is healthier this way.
Yeah, again, you can't just over damage somebody with a card like this either. So I mean, if you're not going to put a number clause on it like Callous Leadership has, I think you just have to say that you can't do more damage. So
absolutely.
Obviously, this is insane with Scrapnel. I think Insecticons clearly want this card. I think really anybody, there's no reason, I can't see a lot of decks not playing this card, to be honest with you. I just think it's that powerful in effect, assuming that, you have other characters that actually can take hits and not take a lot of damage. I can't, even if you have, one main character and 2 minor ones, I still think you transfer the damage around so that your team overall just stays alive. If you're playing a blue deck, I just feel like it's so hard sometimes with a very, very heavy blue deck. I'm thinking more about the wave 2, wave 1 type styles, which I see have gained a lot of power in this set. Like, I just feel like damage is going to be so hard to deal that, like, if you then just transfer it all from, or a decent chunk of it from, like, whoever they're actually trying to kill to somebody else, I just feel like that's going to set up a really difficult scenario for your opponent to deal with.
Yeah, I can see or foresee a number of matchups where this is going to break someone's back, and it's weird that something like this would be the killing blow, but in reality, this is what would close the game out in specific matchups. One other thing that I'd call out that you didn't mention, and you may have already been thinking of, but depending on how many more safeguard characters we get or how valuable that is, this is another thing that assists it, because while it isn't directly healing the damage off of them, they're going to safeguard something to 3. Okay, I'll get 3 damage, and now their force field is active again.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I, right now, am not super enthusiastic about all of the characters with safeguard, but it's something to keep in mind, because we still have, like we were talking about last time, a decent chunk of characters and battle cards to go.
Yeah, just to note for that, I mean, there's definitely a couple that I like, and then the way I see it is, like, that ability is just basically tacked on to a lot of alt modes that, like, basically just say, this character gets to survive longer than you expected them by at least a turn, so I don't think that you need to go, like, all in on healing damage off and all.
Oh God, we're losing you, Scott. We're losing you. Oh God. I guess it's I can hear you. It's just you started turning into a Cybertronian for a few minutes.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. You still sound a little off, but it sounded like you were explaining the safeguard scenario a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, there's the heal 3 card, for example, so that's really good with safeguard 3, or that's the only kind of safeguard we've seen. So
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a good use of this, and I think those decks typically are going to want to be orange. Right. So I think it fits right in. But I just see this card as being extremely powerful. I think this really, really hurts decks like aerial bots, for example.
Yeah.
Who want to, like, concentrate all their efforts on one character, and then you basically just stop that from happening.
Yeah, exactly. Those decks that happen to the overkill scenarios become, I guess, less of a problem, or present a problem, I guess would be the better way to phrase it for this type of card, simply because, if you're doing 1 billion, you're either not going to give them the opportunity, or they won't be able to shift enough damage for it to matter, as compared to, like you said, aerial bots, where you have to be very conscious of where you're placing your damage, or you're not going to get there.
Yeah, and I think there were other decks that I had in mind of making, and I think this card just might make them really difficult to play if people run it as much as I expect. Yeah.
So it's definitely something to keep in mind going forward. The effect is, I mean, Callus has seen a lot of play. I was hoping that it would revitalize, I guess, Decepticon control decks more so than I think it has. I think there are other cards that have helped prop them up, and clearly Callus is being used, but I don't know if it's my own expectations going in. I'm curious to see if this ends up supplanting it, or whether, how much more of an impact this has.
Yeah, I'm curious. This is not the only card I've seen in this set that is like a sister to another card from last set that I can't fathom. Like they're coming out with like a different version already.
I think I might know what one you're talking about, but I don't. If it's the one that we're going to get to later, I don't know if it's quite as impactful as this one might be.
No, it's just interesting that you I mean, I guess if they were in the same set, you'd just be like, these are just mirror images of each other, but
right.
I guess them being a set removed helps that a little bit. But. To
some extent, yeah. The cycles. I mean, it's tough to call it a cycle when it's 2 factions or 2 cards or something like that. It's interesting to see which ones get split versus which ones remain in the same set, just from an outside of the game perspective. But anything else for energy transfer?
No, it's really good. I think it'll see a lot of play.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So this one, the next one up is a little more narrow, but I can certainly see uses for it, and that's Medic's Protective Shield. So it's a white pip armor that when you put this on a character, you repair 1 damage from it. and it grants Safeguard 3. Now, it's also an Autobot card, which is interesting. Again, speaking about cycles, I don't know what the counterpart for this is in the set on the purple team side. Maybe we haven't seen it yet, but it's interesting that it's a specifically Autobot stamped card, just in general, because I can't think of any Autobot card that specifically would care about this being an Autobot card.
No, it's a Safeguard as an Autobot ability.
I guess. I mean, it is, but at the same time, I don't see any reason why a Decepticon couldn't have it. But I get what you're saying.
No, I hear you.
But what do you think about this card from a playability perspective? Is this something that actually you want to sleeve up or no?
Only with Ramhorn.
Yeah, you beat me to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the only use I can see for it. I don't think, like, we've talked about it before, but, like, I don't think healing 1 matters at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, are you going to be in a situation where your opponent's playing Armed Hovercraft to counteract your Safeguard and then you get it back somehow? Like, is that what we're at? Like, I don't know.
I mean, I anticipate if you have Safeguard 3, you're taking the 3. So, yeah, the heal is not going to matter. But obviously on Ramhorn, it being an extra force field is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, because he's typically undamaged. So, I mean, like,
exactly.
they're not going to, I don't know, like, I mean, how many times has your Ramhorn been one-shot standed? Like, that just doesn't happen.
Not when he doesn't already have 6 damage on him, let me tell you.
Right. So, like, I can't see, like, I even if they were making the, quote, intelligent play to work around this card, I still don't think it's a good play because
that's
easily just play Force Field and then he won't die either, so.
Right. Or they don't have it and now you've sunk a card and your attack to kill him and you probably weren't happy about that either.
Yeah. So, I mean you're definitely good there.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, like, it's also good, like, to move around a little bit, like a Quartermaster type trick or like a Ramhorn flip trick or something.
I mean, that's a good point. You could Ramhorn this out, move it to someone else, give them Safeguard 3. Obviously,
and heal them for 1.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming they were undamaged to begin with because otherwise that heal 1's probably not going to matter. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Other than that, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm very curious what the Decepticon counterpart to this card will be. If we go by the keywords, we can assume it's going to have revenge or something on it.
Yeah.
I don't know why my brain immediately jumped to, I hope we get a Decepticon Shockwave sort of thing where, you could play Autobot cards off the top or in some other fashion. I'm not sure why my brain went there because this really has no indication of that, but something struck me about it when I first saw this.
Yeah, that's fair.
Other than that, I mean, I guess, are you excited about this thing for Limited, Scott?
Probably not.
I wouldn't think so, just because I anticipate, and having not played any Limit, I assume the games are just going to drag out because clearly everything's not as linear and defined. So this card will be dead pretty frequently.
I don't think Safeguard is as good in Limited as it is in Constructed, so.
I would agree. And even if it was, what are the odds that you're going to activate it with this?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Anyway, anything else for Medic's Protective Shield? We'll move on from there.
No,
cool. So our next one up is the newest iteration of Ready for Action, and that's New Orders. It's a black pip, and it's untap one of your characters that has 6 stars or fewer. So this is actually on, I think it's Mudslinger from Siege 1. Obviously, all of the Micromasters, their abilities correspond to a card, and some of the cards we just hadn't seen at that time. So his is pitch a black pip card to untap something. And here it is. Are you playing this over Ready for Action, Scott?
Is it blank or black?
Black. So, yes to both.
I don't know why you would ever play. I don't know why you would ever play this over Ready for Action.
I mean, I guess in something that requires black pips, that's all I got. Like if you really wanted to up your black pip count, but given everything we discussed last week with the mercenaries and a number of other cards, if that's really the route you want to go, I think you have a few other options before you're reaching for this card.
Yeah, even in like a Micromaster team deck, you're still going to have stars left over to put into another character, and that character's, I mean, if you just do the math, it should be 7 stars, so you can't even use this card. So, like, I would, again, just be back to using Ready for Action as universal on any of my characters. So,
I mean, now that we have more, and we'll get to them later, we have more desirable 6-star Battle Masters. I guess, hypothetically, you can make that argument. You know, you get your free star for random star card, whatever that happens to be, and then you run these. But again, it's, as I was making a joke earlier, it's a black pip, but it's kind of blank anyway for the most part.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody really cares about this thing.
Limited.
Even then, I mean, yes, it clearly will be live if you're you're putting it in. You have but I don't know.
Yeah, if you don't have an option of another untap effect, I mean, like, you want one.
Yeah.
So, like, you would play it there, I think. So.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't really have anything else to add for this one. It seems pretty much right there on the surface.
Pretty innocuous, yeah.
So our next one up might be a little more interesting, and that is what you kind of jokingly call Pocket Protector when we first saw it. So Pocket Processor is a green pip utility that at the start of your turn, draw a card. Obviously, we've seen this before. It's a quote-unquote reprint of Databank, except instead of a white pip, you're getting green pips. But that does make it significantly more interesting for a number of reasons. Or do you feel differently, Scott? You don't care that this thing's green?
I mean, I care because I can just run one of them in my deck and not 3 of them in my deck if I really want this effect. I just don't know how important this effect is.
I would. So my initial inclination is to disagree with you. The reason I say that on the quantity part, the reason I say that is, say you only run 1. Do you care about playing this on like turn 5?
No, but the math will support that you'll get it much earlier than that. And I don't want to be running 2 blanks if I don't have to. I don't think it's that good.
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel you need to run more than 1, then you don't want to run this card. You would just run Databank, in my opinion.
See, I get where you're going with it. It's blank, so it makes the deck building process complicated simply because you're right. It is blank for combat purposes, but I mean, you're running a 40 card deck. You should see it by what, like somewhere around the wheel turn?
We're like not counting playing bold and tough and all that.
I mean, if you're going to that extent, the homes that I'm picturing for this thing, I'm trying to visualize exactly the deck that wants it while simultaneously not having to go to great lengths to try and find it. And there are a couple things I have in mind, but I don't know. I feel like a single copy is not going to show up early enough that you're going to draw enough cards to justify this.
I mean, I don't think you're going to draw enough cards to justify this, period. I don't think it's very good. So, but I mean, I don't think Databank's very good either. So
yeah, I mean, I always want to like Databank. Like, I like the card, and obviously, therefore, I'm interested in this one. But I agree with you that most of the time, that's why I was going with it. If you don't see it early enough, basically, I want to play this as one of my first few upgrades, or it's not going to do anything, or virtually nothing.
Yeah, see, the decks that I think that want these types of effects, like the only turn you really have to play it is like the first turn where only you can play a card going second, or right away. Like, I just feel like it's just not impactful enough, and like all you're really doing is like, I mean, you can just play like, I know it's off color or whatever, but like a pep talk gets you further there. I know it's an upgrade versus an action type situation, but like, I don't really like these types of cards because, again, like you said, like the decks that want them need them early, and if you don't get them early, like, I mean, I've beaten people where they have like 3 of them out. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Well, that's a function of the way that this game flows, that there's a bottleneck in how much you can play each turn. So yeah, you have a million cards. Assuming that even happens, you have
it's a combo. This is a combo card.
I mean, sort of. The problem is it's a drip feed, just like Databank. So it's not like a combo card in that, oh well, I draw 15 cards like an insane equipment enthusiast, so that way I know I have everything. This is, like you said, if you don't hit it on that going second, turn 1, you're probably in a rough spot.
Yeah, but this is something you could, like, in a combo deck you could get and then play equipment enthusiast. Like, I think you want to do all that.
Possibly, yeah. That way you could have it either way. If you get it early, great. If you don't, then yes, you can fish it out.
Yeah, I think it's a combo enabling card only in like regular play. Otherwise, you might benefit it as a one of, and then hope you get it at a time where like you don't have anything else to do, so you just play this. But I think it's the excitement I've seen over this card seems overrated to me.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It's just one of those where the scenarios that it's going to excel are very, very narrow, I think.
Yeah.
So it's something to be aware of, but I don't know if I'm over the moon over it. It's definitely interesting, but I'm not super excited to start building pocket protector decks.
Yes. It's an effect from other games that seems powerful given the nature of how other games work.
Right. Definitely. So any other thoughts on here?
Nope.
Then we'll move on to showing off. So showing off is a blank pip action. Flip one of your characters to another mode, then flip it to another mode. So we got a universal UFO.
Well, it's less stringent than UFO. You don't have to be in either one of the modes to begin with. But
right. Yes.
It's like a double rapid conversion with no pips on it. Like, I don't understand when you're going to want this. I know the situations that are going to want this, but like I don't know why. Well, like, okay, so most of the situations I can envision that want this card really are fine just escape routing or rapid conversioning. Like, you're just basically saving yourself half a turn, and I don't know that there are flips that are impactful enough that matter. Like, the ones that come to mind involve like Wave 3 Megatron that people have mentioned, and like a little bit of the new Megatron that people have mentioned, but otherwise like a lot of them are basically just going to get you back to status quo with this card, or like Shockwave is another example where you would just play UFO. So
well,
that's just not
in that scenario. It would be, do you want 5 to 6 UFOs?
No, you don't.
Well, in the Shockwave you're talking about, which for anybody who's unsure, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's the most recent iteration of Shockwave.
Yeah.
What the counterpoint I was going to bring up is actually Wave 1 Shockwave, or other combo-y things like Cosmos, which we joked about when we first saw UFO. Now you have a little bit more redundancy in those effects, and they can be pretty important for those sort of bizarre builds. I don't know if that's really enough to make them a thing. Let's be real. I'm not saying that Cosmos is suddenly going to take over the meta, but now you have 6 UFOs to make Cosmos more consistently live on the turn he's trying to get in, sort of thing.
I just think it's funny that 3 out of the 5 examples of bots we can think of to use this already can use UFO.
Well, yeah. Well, it kind of makes sense, because given the way UFO, the fact that UFO exists is, a lot of the spaceship related, well, not even a lot. It's really Shockwave and Cosmos, because the other spaceships don't really care too much. I mean, you could Alpha Trion, who's a spaceship, and UFO, but okay. And the same sort of thing with showing off. But you're right. There is a very limited band of bots that actually care about this. And the ones, the Bumblebees or Megatrons, Wave 2 I'm talking about, are other cards that let you play free cards, it's kind of, why didn't you just play that card?
Exactly, that's the problem. Or like something to let you get something back from the scrap pile. Like you don't have the action phase anymore to now be able to play that ability. Like I guess if you could play an upgrade.
Yeah, so the Wave 1 Megatron, I guess, or what's his name? Trigger Happy or something like that, so that you can get him back. Like, fetch your thing, go get it, slam it on him, and then get in.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems okay. I kind of expect, like I said, that this will be more for everybody out there who loves Cosmos.
Yeah, fair.
They do have a triple changer on the art, and obviously the way it's worded allows you to dance from mode to mode. But the only one we've seen so far that cares about doing that is Octane, I believe.
Sort of. Like, it's really not that impactful. Like, the flip to the mode effect. It's more of like, a lot of the triple changers just are like, I want to be in this mode. There's not a flip to that mode ability that you care about.
Exactly. That's why Octane is the only one I can think of, because then it's get into the appropriate ping mode and then get out of it so that I can get back into bounty mode or something like that, I guess.
Yeah, again, like most of these situations can just be done with your flip for the turn and a escape route rapid conversion effect. That's the problem.
Right.
And you don't have blanks. So
yeah, or at least you're freeing up your blanks to be something more impactful than simply getting you half a turn.
Yeah, and even for a lot of these other examples, I just feel like there are other blank cards you can play to simulate that effect too, and are, I don't know, always live, like, like the Wave 3 Megatron. Like, I mean, you have to have 3 weapons to make it better than just a Plasma Burst. Like, that's the thing.
It's more effort than you might think.
Yeah, for a blank that basically has to sit in your hand until a time when things are all set up and good to go. So
right. Yeah, I think it's cute. I think it's obviously another one to go add to the pile of let's keep it in mind, because maybe there's a triple changer waiting out there that we haven't seen, which will care, or another, the Cosmos Shockwave thing where it's, yes, I want to get into that mode temporarily and get out of it, but there are a few that are game breaking enough. Obviously, basically every character has, or almost every character has a get into alt mode, do something cool, and then you'd rather attack in the other mode, but I don't think that's enough to justify it at this stage.
Yeah, agreed.
So I guess we can call it for showing off there. So the next one up is Special Delivery, which I think is the card that Drew has been alluding to for a while as the other half of Frag Toss.
What's the art on it?
So in Frag Toss, it's run amok flinging a grenade, and then in this one, it's looks like two Autobot Micromasters throwing a grenade. So I don't know if the story is supposed to be one of them threw it and the other one threw it back, or what the story is there.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm going out on a limb. We'll if any of the WotC people listen to this, maybe they'll let us in on the story. But so anyway, as to the actual card, this is the one I was saying earlier. I thought you were referring to this as a Siege Wave 1, and then now we have this. So it's a black pip, fling. Move 1 damage counter from one of your characters to an enemy. We've already seen this effect as a blank pip, and, the general idea on a number of other cards, but it still feels like it's not quite there for what you could be doing alternatively.
Well, there's a Micromaster that has this ability also. Like, we're in the same situation as the untapped thing. Like,
yep.
So, I don't know. I mean, are they just going to keep making fling with different colors until it becomes playable? Like, I don't know.
I mean, fling on an orange card might be decent. People play Zap.
Right. I mean, I think this is still worse than Zap. That's my whole point.
Yes, I would agree. I'm not super excited about this for Constructed. I guess in Limited, it's probably going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would play a fling type effect in Limited.
Obviously, it's starting to get into that range of, okay, these are the, my definitely playables, my mostly playables, it's starting to creep into, okay, if I have to play them, and then as opposed to complete garbage that you wouldn't want to play to begin with.
Yeah, agreed. Like you have to play some bad cards, and this is one of them.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I'm gonna move on from there. I don't think there's really much else to say about that one. Nope. So this was actually a recent reveal from today, I believe, to close out our battle cards. So it's War of Attrition. It's a blue pip and a green pip. Your opponent chooses one of their characters and does 1 damage to it. If this is the third War of Attrition you played this turn, repair 3 damage from one of your characters. And then, of course, it has the line, you may play another War of Attrition. So it's the next in the series of all the collect cards like Focus Fire, Sonic Scramble, other ones that I'm forgetting, like the upgrades, Tac Drone, and extra padding. It's Burn, Scott, so you have to love this card, right? Like, this is your favorite card so far?
No.
I know.
Indirect burn.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that it has a blue pip on it, and obviously being green, you can fetch the burn, but I don't know. Without playing 3 of them, I don't know if this card is... we've seen a lot of blue zaps. A blue zap that you can't even target isn't exactly going to set the world on fire, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. It's notably a green card, so of course there's going to be an opportunity there. We're going to talk about a card in a little while that maybe cares about it. And when I say maybe, that's really stretching it, because I don't think it cares, but there is the potential there. Is there anything that you foresee this might show up in, Scott? Like, is there any way that you picture this is actually going to make it, or is this something that's immediately going to go in a box and never see the light of day?
I just can't imagine. I mean, you basically have to get to a late game where it becomes a deal 3, heal 3, instead of like deal 1. Instead of basically like, even at best, it's going to be like strafing run, heal 3. And I'm not even sure that's good enough for 3 cards. So.
Well, you could, I guess, in the scenario you're painting, if it ended up, it's your big character, their big character in some blue versus blue attrition match, and then it becomes, I guess, a sort of reverse one shall stand.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's asking a lot, and you probably would have, whatever card would have been in that slot, or those 3 slots, could have been doing something a lot more important earlier than whatever the hell you're doing now.
Yeah, it's my extra padding argument.
Right.
You're giving up 3 cards to get the equivalent of 1, so.
Right. No, I'm agreeing with you there. I wish I could come at it from a different angle, but I'm not super excited about this one, unfortunately.
Nope.
So we'll move on from the battle cards and dive into the bots. So
wow, we might only have 1 episode this time.
Yeah, I was about to. God damn it! He stole it from me. No, it's you're right. I think we might be able to get through this one. So anyway, our first bot up is Reiter Blackjack. So this is the next in the line of the quote-unquote lords for the various patrols. So he's the leader of the sports car patrol. Obviously, he's a car, as you'd imagine. Melee, 5 stars. He has stealth while on tap. That goes for all of these. 380 in alt mode. And when one of your sports car patrols becomes untapped, repair 1 damage from it. In bot mode, he's a leader, sports car patrol, melee, 381, and he has what is now becoming the regular thing for them. He has +1 attack and +1 defense for each sports car patrol in your KO area. I wasn't honestly really excited about a lot of the leaders, but they're growing on me, Scott. Do you like these guys or no?
I mean, we talked pre-show about not getting into them as a deck.
Yeah.
Like how they I do like some of the concepts from a Micromaster deck perspective. I think this one is intentionally weak because of how much car synergy there is out there right now.
Yeah, the untapping like 4 and 5 health or 6 health guys is like, okay, you heal 1, you have 5 health. Let's not get wild.
Right. I just don't. I just can't fathom the healing that you're ever going to do with this guy.
No, I think it's just a matter of them, and like Scott was saying, a lot of the lords, it goes without saying, like, okay, well, you're going to play the other guy, so a lot of it, we didn't want to beat a dead horse or beat up the obvious for, okay, you play the other sports car patrol guys with this one. I'm not as enthused by him, but in general with the concept, I do like this idea. It was, I think the WotC team, what do they call it? Signpost cards or something like that, where it's like, here's your deck. Like if you're a newer player, you don't have to worry about necessarily diving in. It's just like, oh, well, obviously I play with the other guys, so I appreciate on that end, but also I do like how some of them are mapping out as decks.
Yeah, I would specifically say the other ones we've seen aren't this one.
Yeah, not. I was trying to cut him a break because he's I do like that it's Blackjack and we finally showed up. I was half expecting him to show up because the Combiner Wars toy line had him as a 6th member for the Stunticons. So these were the legends, like the tiniest size class, and he was basically a chest plate. But the way the lore, I know this is sidetrack, but the lore for them is that the way the personalities like melded, because they added Blackjack in, it modified how Menassor's personality manifested. So instead of him being a raging lunatic, Blackjack was supposed to be like much more regimented. So it was easier to give him orders kind of thing. So every iteration of the Transformers lore is made up, maybe not every, but a lot of them have made up their own rules about how combiners work. So it was just a cool concept. And like I said, I was waiting for Blackjack to show up.
Here he is.
Finally, thank God. So we'll move on from Blackjack to Reiter Needler, who is the Decepticon version of Vanguard, but maybe not so much. So he's a melee battlemaster, 310-1. Enemy characters can't be repaired. He's 7 stars, and he becomes the Steelbite Incisor Mask. He gives +2 armor and Pierce 2, and that's it.
Yep.
Yes.
7 stars, right?
Yes. I kind of assumed when I saw this, because I didn't see the star count initially, that he was 5 stars. Because it's like, oh, well, he's just going to be a mirror of Vanguard. And I'm like, yeah, Vanguard's better, but I guess if you had a Decepticon, you wanted to stay all Decepticons. The fact that he's 7 stars makes it tough.
Yeah, the problem is I can't see this card ever seeing play outside of sideboards, and I can't see that you ever are going to have 7 stars available to like switch your team around to play this guy. That he's going to be that impactful, at least the way it stands right now. I can only see that like if there's some, repair-based deck, but I think it's too niche to have like such a silver bullet like this when you can only play 1 sideboard.
Right.
That like I just don't see the place that this character is ever going to have, considering Vanguard gives you 2 armor, or there's at least 1 other armor in this set that can give you 2 armor, or the rock paper scissors armor can give you 2 armor in the right situation. Like this just isn't impactful enough. Like I don't think the Pierce 2 matters.
Well, you look at the Vanguard one, and it's just those are a lot more powerful things than this. Unless there's, and again, we still have a lot of set to go through, so obviously these are the freshest, hottest takes, but like you said, unless there's a repair deck that's suddenly out there, this feels like somebody got the wrong end of this stick.
I mean, his survivability is like on par, is better than a lot of the weapon battle masters that see play now, who typically have a 10 effective health. Like he has an 11 effective health, so it's a little bit.
But is that better or worse?
Well, I think they're just costing it in. Like in my opinion, like the bird. I always forget his name.
Sights. I remember it because like That feels like such a non-Transformers name, and I don't know why to me, but anyway.
Yeah. Like, his survivability is almost as high, like at 391.
Yeah.
With Focus 1 built in as, like, before you become the utility. So, like, that's where, like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, we know it shuts off I Still Function. We know it shuts off whatever, but I just don't think it's that impactful.
Yeah. I don't know. On the armor side of it, well, one thing, I'm a little disappointed he's not an Insecticon. I know he's not officially, but I mean, look at this guy. Like, yeah. I kind of wanted him to be an Insecticon just for the hell of it, but that's an aside.
Or a Predator for the heck of it.
That could work too. I like that. That'll work. Okay. So here's my every show pitch. The promo Soundwave might want him, but not really. And we'll see why later. But the reason I say that is if you do the blaster setup of Soundwave 2 cassettes, 7 stars, it feels as though promo Soundwave, and when I keep saying that, I'm talking about the blaster versus Soundwave set for anybody out there who's unsure what I mean. It feels as though that deck is intended to be blue-black. So this could go on Soundwave, make him a 4 defense character with 15 health, give him Pierce 2, and then you have a whole bunch of other effects to give him additional Pierce in whatever capacity. But
now you don't have to play the black because you actually get it out of cards that you'll actually just have in play.
Well, it's only going to give you 2, so you're going to still need some additional help. But now you could...
Max, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So now you can... The cassettes will still need some sort of Pierce to do other things. You know, if you're a blue deck, that deck has always struggled with actually finishing the game. So I don't know if this really changes it, but like I said, I feel like I'm obligated every show because I'm dying to find a way to make Soundwave work. So I got to try and find and sell something. So, but other than that, yeah, I'm sorry, Needler, but I don't know if it's necessarily your time right now.
Probably not.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no. So we'll move on from Needler to Raider Night Flight. So this is our last Airstrike Patrol. Well, actually, we have the other one later, but it was the latest revealed chronologically Airstrike Patrol. So he is part of the patrol. He's plain, he's ranged, he's 370, 4 stars, and he has stealth while untapped. In his bot mode, he's 371. You can tap and scrap 3 green cards. Your opponent chooses one of their characters and does 3 damage to it. If you scrap 3 cards that have the same name, you repair 3 from one of your characters. So it's the Micromaster to tie in with War of Attrition. Do you care at all about this guy, Scott?
I mean, as a 4-drop plane compared to, was it Stormcloud, right? I mean, he's just flat better than Stormcloud in a non...
Statistically, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this guy's going to see play for 2 reasons. One, you want a 4-star plane, and he's the best option. And if you're playing 2 4-star planes, it's him and Stormcloud. So he's going to see play in any deck that would want a 4-star plane because he's just better than Stormcloud, or
right,
you'll play them both. So... for that reason, he's fine. I mean, he's just better stats than that, and I mean, I don't know. I can't see ever using any of these flip abilities like that make you pitch 3 cards. So,
yeah, I mean, if you go for the patrol route, I think there are other ones as members of this team that you'd rather use to like go for the ability. But I agree with you. As a stat line, this guy could show up in other places. Maybe that Starscream deck that we had tried way back when is a thing now. Yeah,
I mean, I think, and in the patrol deck, he's fine also. I mean,
you're going to run him in the patrol deck. I mean, that's going to happen.
But I think we're going to see later why these guys have low survivability. It's because the Lord specifically helps them on both sides of combat. So
absolutely.
So I think for stats alone, given in that deck, I think he's pretty powerful. I mean, I don't think you're ever going to use any of these guys' abilities, even in the deck itself.
Yeah, it's definitely going to... I don't want to paint it as, that's the focal point of the deck. I think the Micromaster still, as a whole, it's still a challenge because, we've talked about on other shows that you give up a lot by tapping that guy. So you have to make sure that you're really getting the value out of it.
Yeah, and it's just like 3 cards out of your hand. It's just
you better be getting a lot of value out of it because that's asking a lot. And it's not just collecting the 3 cards, even before you talk about like getting 3 cards with the same name. It's just, what's the opportunity cost for you having saved those cards? What could you have done on the other turns if you just played them or played the other card that you pitched to get it back? There are a lot of question marks there.
Yeah.
So, since we're obviously going to be circling back when the Lord comes up, any other thoughts for Night Flight?
No.
So we'll move on from our latest plane into a different plane. And this is another Lord. He is the Battle Patrol one, which is a little interesting because the other ones are tanks. But he is a plane and ranged. He's 5 stars, 2/8/1, stealth while untapped. When one of your battle patrols becomes tapped, do 1 damage to a tapped enemy. And then in bot mode, he's 3/8/1 and the usual Lord thing of +1 attack, +1 defense for each dead battle patrol you have. And he's ranged in both modes. So I get the feeling you're excited about this one, Scott.
Yeah, this is the one I want to build around. This one and the plane one.
I cannot imagine why. What possible reason could you want to build around this guy?
You get to do damage.
Yeah, I know. That was very much rhetorical.
Yeah. Essentially, it's like an absolute worst. You can, okay. So at absolute worst, you can look at it like it's basically just give all your battle patrols +1 attack. Like that's the worst you can look at it, but it's obviously better than that because
you don't have to worry about breaching their defenses.
That's 1, and then 2, you can technically have multiple targets for
you can
1
split
for the
it.
attack and 1 for the damage.
Yep.
And there's a number of combos that allow you. First of all, just using them as a Micromaster, you'll now have a rock toss built into them.
Yes.
When they use the Micromaster.
Your treasure hunt's now rock toss.
Right. Exactly. And Inferno Breath is a card.
That seems like it could be okay.
Yeah. So there's just a number of combos with this. I think like that patrol is one that like makes good use out of the Matrix because their leader is they're a now relevant tribe given the tank support that's in this set and the way to use Hunker Down in a blue base deck, which I can see this being. And then again, using it in a blue base deck, the 1 damage has tremendous more value because you wouldn't normally be doing extra damage anyway. So like if it just gave them +1 attack, you were playing a blue deck, for example, and your guys were like 2 and 3 attack to start with. Like
some of them are 1. that I was going to bring that up after you were done because I'm not quite as excited, but keep going.
So that's part of the issue is if you were playing a blue deck and you weren't going to be getting over their defense, even with the +1, if this guy just said, give your guys +1 attack, it wouldn't be as good.
Right.
But if you're playing a blue deck now with these guys, even though they need orange to use their abilities, but that's neither here nor there. You're getting a lot more than just 1 because you're actually able to do damage, which you might not have been able to do before.
Right. That actually kind of segues into my concern for these guys, because I agree with you, and I was very excited about this guy when he was first spoiled, until I went back and looked at all of the battle patrols. They all seem to, compared to a lot of the other patrols who, let's talk about the off-road patrol and the fact that they have fling and that untap 6 or less. Those are not as exciting as, say, treasure hunting as part of your Micromaster ability, and then tacking on a rock toss. My concern with this guy more is exactly what you said. You may just never do any damage outside the rock toss, because those guys are tiny. The one of them, straight up starts with one attack, that's a lot of effort to try and get there in the combat step. But again, maybe this is a tribe it's a blue-black build or something. I don't know.
Or it's just a laser cutlass build.
Well, yes, but laser cutlass, I mean, you get your treasure hunt. You can run, you're guaranteed your treasure hunt. It's going to be interesting to see if there are enough effects because that, for lack of a better way to describe it, the aerial bot syndrome, like you were referring to earlier, where you're only going to have so much damage output. You need to make sure that it is getting exactly where it needs to. And although it requires a tapped enemy, you should be able to engineer reasonable scenarios where you're going to point your damage at the target that needs it. But we'll have to wait and see how this guy goes. I know you're excited about it, so I'll wait for you to figure it out.
Yeah, it might be garbage. Who knows? We'll figure it out.
The guy looks cool, though. I do like the color scheme is weird. This like muted
gold, right?
It's like goldish yellow, and then like a muted green. It's like puke green, but it works together. I don't know. Like I hate to describe it that way because it makes it sound terrible, but like it actually, like, I like the color scheme and I like the way this guy looks, but I don't know.
I like that it's a bomber and you're like dropping bombs.
Fair. I got it. I see it.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I like this guy. So, but again, I'm going to wait to see how you manage to make him work. So
I'll try.
Yeah. So actually, believe it or not, Scott, we're on our last reveal, unless I missed some, because it was a quiet week and it felt weird that, given the last few weeks of how much overabundance of spoilers that we were swimming in. But we are now on the Airstrike Patrol Lord, and that is Tailwind, or Reiter Tailwind. So usual story, Airstrike Patrol, plane ranged and also in bot mode. 5 stars, 381, stealth while untapped. When one of your Airstrike Patrol battles and you flip at least a green pip, it gets +2 attack and +1 defense until the end of the battle. And then in bot mode, he's a 381 and has +1 attack, +1 defense for each dead Airstrike Patrol. So you had some points that you were saving when we were talking about Night Flight earlier. So what do you got to say for this guy, Scott?
So he's 381 in both modes?
Correct.
I think he might have the best stats of any Battlemaster. I mean, any Micromaster.
Probably. Yes. We'll say yes. I don't know. It's got to be close.
Definitely this patrol for sure.
Well, yes, because we're talking about Visper and Stormcloud.
And then the new guy. But Visper being the same star cost is 370. So, like, This is one more hit point and a defense. So, like, that's huge. I know it doesn't seem like it, but, like, on these star levels, that's pretty, like, right. This is pretty normal character stats for a 5-drop.
Right.
Pretty aerial bot.
Yeah, this is creeping up on that.
But, I mean, flipping a green on any of your characters during combat and getting 2 attack and 1 defense, obviously +2/+2 would have been way too powerful, but
well, yeah.
But this is, it turns any of your greens, and I'm gonna assume that, like, I don't know, like, I guess, like, if you're playing an orange deck, you're gonna have some orange greens, and if you're playing it in a control deck, or a defensive deck, you're gonna have blue greens. Like, you're basically you're turning your orange greens into, like,
double pips,
triple pips, right? Like, almost like you're getting +2.
Yeah, I guess it depends on which end of the combat you're on. So in the orange shells, those are now, at least the first green is now a double orange pip plus any other hypothetical oranges it has.
Yeah, this is exactly the same argument about how many whites to play, like, in a normal deck, like non-Metroplex type deck. Like, yeah. In a deck where, like, the second white doesn't help you. The second green here isn't going to help you. But, I mean, it turns your greens essentially into triple pips. Green oranges. It turns your green blues into double pips. So, I mean, this is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Like out of a blue shell, suddenly your guy should be hitting for like 5, and that's not insignificant coming from a 4 or 5 drop. Especially again,
Right.
like the point is, any character, as usual, as we said many times over and over again, no matter which style of deck you're playing, control, aggro control, every character still gets the benefit of playing an action and upgrade on them.
Yep.
To try to do damage. So, like, if you're in a situation where, like, now these guys are going to be more difficult to play things like Energon on them because they're probably, if they take damage or
yeah, we're going to go out on a limb and say he's not going to stay very long.
but I mean, like, things like, and you obviously in a situation like, playing a Scoundrel Blaster might not be the most exciting thing in the world, but like that's a +2. But let's go from the blue deck perspective. Like, you put a Scoundrel Blaster on them, you put a Leap into Battle on them, or you put a Bigger They Are, like any one of those various effects on them, you get +4 to +5 to start with. They start as a 3, they're a 7. Now you flip over combat. Even if you're a blue deck and get 1 green, you're a 9. I mean, 9 out of a 4 or 5 drop. Like,
yeah.
Like that's very good. And then on the flip side to an orange, if you're giving them a +3 or better from an action and like a +3 from a weapon, and then you flip an orange and like an orange green, suddenly you're like a 12 or a 13.
Yeah.
Out of like a 4 or 5 drop. I mean, these are just like, if this had given you +1/+, I think it would have been like, oh, I'm going to play this. But +2/+1, I mean, like, this is like, I don't know. This is, this is obviously balanced out by the fact that like the Micromaster abilities on all these guys are unplayable.
Yes, we were talking about that offline, and I mean, I'm of the opinion that there are fringe scenarios where at least one of the members could be useful, but I'm not going to say that it's going to be a significant percentage of games. You're kind of asking a lot for them to go off, let alone in the double up scenario, or triple up, I guess would be more appropriate, where you're pitching 3 because this is the green pip one. Remember, everybody out there in TV land. So I don't think those are going to trigger very often. It's really going to be a matter of, I think, what you were getting at, Scott, or you mentioned earlier, where you're a non-Metroplex, how many white pips you play, okay? How many green pips here can you stuff in without having to reach for something where it's like, do I need the 3rd enforcement batons or something like that? Not saying that that's what it would be, but are you reaching really far to keep the count high enough to trigger this guy enough? Because I don't know. Oh, God.
Well, I mean, don't forget Aerial Recon as a card, Acute Reflexes.
Yes, absolutely.
Abilities like this are really good with this.
Yes.
And Aerial Recon is essentially.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, there are definitely ways to make it happen. It's just going to be, so like the Aerial Recon is going to be, you took your upgrade up for the turn instead of playing a weapon. Is that, I mean, clearly it's going to help you trigger it, but is that better than playing Erratic Lightning?
The other.
What was that?
If it's one or the other,
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't, I guess that's not the deciding factor, but it's something to consider. I think you're playing those cards anyway, but that is where you're starting to reach or fill up the deck with, well, I could just be doing this alternative thing instead. But in general, I really like this guy, and I like this team as a whole. So I'm excited to actually give them a whirl.
Yeah, I still think generally the plain tribal cards are not as powerful as tribes, but like, because I just don't know whether or not this can.
I don't think you're bombing running with these guys. I don't think you're.
Yeah, that's the problem. But I think, but I mean, we played bombing run in the. Well, I mean, that deck had a little more survivability, but
in that you're saying the Starscream deck.
Yeah, but I mean,
he's a little bit chunkier than these guys.
Well, he himself is, but I mean, like, I don't know who your other account would be, and if it's a. I mean, the only 7-drop plane I think is
the new one.
What's her name? Nova Storm. Or whatever, right?
Yeah, from one of the early reveals. You could, and even there, depending on whether you're blue or orange, that she could be very, very fragile. I don't know. I mean, they are still ranged, so you get the usual suite that we always talk about for these guys if you decide to go that route to help supplement, so that, like you were describing, they're a reasonable threat in combat just by virtue of the Lord ability and just functioning normally, on top of, okay, now I get the control aspect burn. I think there's a lot of potential to these guys, and I definitely want to try them out. It's good that he's a common, so I'm not going to have to tear my hair out trying to track these guys down. I think they all are.
Yeah, all Micromasters are.
Yeah, I'm looking at scrolling through the other lords real quick just to see if, the lord themselves was going to be a separate thing.
Yeah, the Micromasters are all common, and the Battle Masters or Weaponizers are all uncommon.
Yes. Well, anything else for Reiter Tailwind, Scott?
No, I think he's the best one of these, tied probably right now with the truck one, whichever they are, Off-Road Patrol.
Yeah.
And that's only because that team has some extra cards to help them out because they're trucks.
Well, I'm curious. So it's entirely possible that the +7 card for trucks and of course, what?
Base 7. It's not a +7.
You're right. Don't want to misrepresent it. The four-wheel drive.
Yes.
In addition to the other assorted truck cards, which I doubt they care about, but that one at least is that. I'm very curious whether that's a one-off, and that's the truck card for this set. It just so happens that there's this other tribe that can make use of it in this set, or extra help for that tribe. I don't know if we're going to get something. I mean, planes, as you said, they typically don't get as powerful tribal cards. Maybe there will be something.
I think they've gotten a card in every set. I think has every tribe gotten a card in every? Yeah, I think so.
That sounds right. But if you ask me to name them right now, I could definitely not do that. But to your point, that we've gotten composite armor in this set. We've gotten four-wheel drive in this set. I don't think we've seen a plane card.
Have we seen a cars card? I don't even know.
What was that?
Have we seen a cars card? I don't even know.
Don't think so. But we still have, they could easily add the one-off there if there's plenty of room remaining in the set to do it.
Did we get a cars card last set? I don't remember.
Man, now you're putting me on the spot. I don't know. I feel like we did. I feel like we've got
really good ones in set 1. I know that.
Well, yes, and because a lot of these get overshadowed by some of the other versions or other cards, it's tough to keep track of. Oh yeah, we did get that. Like battering ram happened last set, but
yeah, I remember the truck one. I remember the plane ones have been in every set, even though they haven't all been good.
Mm.
I know there's been truck ones in every set, and I think there's been I don't know if there's a tank card in Wave 2.
In Wave 2?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, we're gonna definitely look that up later.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe they're gonna get some extra help just because I do really want to play these guys. I'm looking forward to trying them out. I think it's a different concept, even though it does. Shout out to one of the patrons. I want to say it was Nate. Yeah, it was Nate. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm glad you remember because I was like 99% sure because his comparison to looking at these guys as combiners I thought was very apt. It was definitely part of where I was starting to come around on them as a whole, like the entire Lord and X Patrol concept, and that kind of gave me an additional perspective on it. So shout out to him on that.
I think in Magic at one point there were words that basically helped the entire, like the rest of the team, but then themselves were also helped by the tribe also. It wasn't just like give all your guys +1/+1. I think they were also like, and you got +1/+1 for every other one out there. And those were always the ones that would see play over just the generic, like, give my guys +1/+1. Like,
right.
This is even more powerful because you actually get the buff when they're KO'd. So now all of a sudden, like, you don't even need them to be in play.
Right.
And they can't really get it. Like, their Lord is never going to get attacked, like, until you want him to be.
Yeah, and that goes for all these teams, is that it's very... Well, I wanted to call it out because on turn 1, turn 0, like we always call it, you dictate exactly where they can attack. Like, they have to attack your other guy because they all have this stealth while untapped. And yes, somebody, I guess, I don't even know off the top of my head of all the... Because there are cards you could play that can strip stealth, but obviously they're not doing that on turn 0. I don't think there are any characters right now that you'd be able to do that. Because, like, Deadlock can do it, that we reviewed last week. But that would require 2 flips, etc. Stuff like that. Point is that you get to dictate a lot of the flow of the game with these guys. And obviously not just the Airstrike Patrol, the patrols in general. And that's really unique to me. It's brave without having brave. I mean, obviously it's stealth, the other half of the ability, but it's kind of because you all have stealth, you're granting your other guy brave to some extent.
Yeah, you now have a guy you actually want to stay alive, so, like, you want your other guys to just be blocking for him.
Yeah, and just play fodder.
And now you get 4 other guys that will block for him because the 5th character attacked most often because of the stealth to all the other guys. Like, is probably, like, if you're going second, he's going to be attacked presumably twice unless he's like a centerpiece of the deck or something like that.
Right. Yeah, it opens up a lot of unique things because of the way you get to influence the game in that fashion. And like I said, we've seen that with brave characters before. This is, doing it via stealth, but it's a scenario that I think we had talked about way back when all the way back when we first saw stealth, if something like this would manifest. And here we are, it's starting to show up.
Yeah, and I think this is just, I think what people need to be aware of, and I think we're going to do probably at the end of the set review, probably like more on this topic. Mm-hmm. But I think the people need to keep in mind is that, yes, these characters don't necessarily have their own unique abilities. Most combiner teams do. Like, the game, when you're playing a combiner team, I've played like one really competitively. I've played 2 of the combiner. The way your turns play out a lot of times are based on the character's abilities. And that's not going to happen in this situation because they don't really have abilities that you... And if you are going to use them for that, it's not actually gonna. It's not like a flip to bot mode ability. It's a tap your guy and flip to bot mode ability. So it's taking up a lot of effort, like you said. And even though they're good effects, they're not necessarily like game breaking, changing effects. Like something like a Razor Claw or like even like an Air Raid or even like a Silver Bolt or some of this like
Hey, we get a fling. Come on, like come on,
a dead end.
Yeah,
like these like really game changing, in my opinion, like combiner based abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people are just underselling what it means to just have a team this wide that they all gain something. It's just clearly they're not all gaining the same power level of that something, and then having so many stars left over to actually be able to do like many different things and go in many different directions.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to have a quote unquote combiner team that allows you to have that flexible 5th member, compared to obviously being locked into the team with that generally the idea to be combining. Clearly there are some where that was never in the cards, but
and there's 7 left over, so your perfect sideboard card could be the helmet guy that stops repair.
Look, Spear and Magic Helmet will be a deck. I'm telling you, I want that to be... I really wanted there to be a Battle Master that turned into a Spear. So you could have that Optimus and Vanguard, and then this hypothetical guy, and the deck is going to be Spear and Magic Helmet.
What was that from?
You never saw the Bugs Bunny opera?
Oh, I remember.
You remember that?
I couldn't remember. Yeah,
it's all about those deep cuts.
Yeah, you're right.
Back in the day.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I told Jackie about that. My wife. Anybody out there listening? She looked at me and then laughed and then kind of glared at me and then started laughing again. One of those where it's like, yeah, that's funny, but you're terrible because you came up with that.
He would like sing. He would like sing it. I remember that now.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's a really good reference.
It's a classic.
Anyway,
a good one. So yeah, that actually, believe it or not, folks, we got through it way quicker than previous times. We are. I don't want to say we're winding down on spoiler season because we still have a while to go, but we have gotten a significant chunk done. So aside from this. Oh God!
What's the count? What's the count at? Do you have any idea?
Oh God, you did it to me again. So I actually have it on my notepad over here. So as of last time, we had 48 out of 64 battle cards and 38 of 52 character cards revealed.
Okay.
I didn't count up how many we had this time. So, however many, whatever that was, plus these. And then I think those numbers also were before the last second extra 4 cards that we got in the middle. Yeah. So we're past the halfway point, obviously.
We're almost done. We're almost done battle cards. So we actually need to, have more characters. And the only ones I know of, off the top of my head are, we don't have the Rescue Patrol Lord, and we don't have the, if another secret rare exists, we don't have another secret rare. Yeah.
Yes. I could see there being another one, but we don't know if that's actually going to be the case.
There's likely going to be another one because
keep it even.
But also it has to do with like how many you get in a case, and I can't imagine
they would throw it off that much.
I can't imagine them saying you can get it all of them out of one case. Just seems a little kind.
Yes, I think that argument might have some weight. So. I mean that's just the reality of things outside the game. So, I think that'll do it. Anything else you wanted to throw in, Scott? As always, we did bring it up last time, but the charity events, I know Cameron is still doing everything for Extra Life. We've been retweeting it and posting it and supporting him where we can. Were there any other details, Scott, that you want to throw out there for anything else going on with that or anything else for that matter?
Yeah, at the time you're listening to this, unless you're listening live, so this will usually get posted on a Monday, so it'll get posted. My dates are all messed up, but I think
Monday the 14th.
Yeah, so like the next Saturday coming up is our charity event at Top Deck Games. So what we decided to do was, Cameron, one of our friends, one of our patrons, big supporter of ours, so we decided to help support him even more than we were by giving him things to raffle off. We decided that for each player that shows up to the Top Deck, I don't want to say case event because it's now like a store credit event, which can get you a case, same price.
Yeah.
But what I'll just affectionately call the case events, we're going to donate $5 as an area. Like we're not going to say it just comes. So it comes from like the South Jersey, Philadelphia Transformers TCG community. $5 per player will be donated to his Extra Life or Child's Play. I think they're the same thing. I always get them confused, but I think they're the same thing. Charity event to help him get to his goal, which I think he might have honestly got to, but like, who cares? Like, we're just going to give more.
Hey, if you're donating extra to children's charity, I think it's okay. It's all right. You can go over.
Yeah. So, we'll donate $5 per player, and then I'm just thinking of other things we could raffle off at the event, or sell at the event, or like prepare people. Like, I think it's mostly going to be raffles that we can do on site. I just haven't thought of the details yet, like a box of Siege 2 and things like that people will be entitled to later. Like more interesting things, like individual cards that extras we might have laying around that we can give out as prizes. But it's all money just going to charity.
Yep.
And then trying to get out more players to the quote end of the Siege 1 meta event. So.
Yep. Yeah, because we are wrapping up that particular meta as coinciding with the end of spoiler season. Who'd have thunk it? Well, I guess if there's nothing else, Scott, I think we can put a cap on this one. So, everybody out there, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And please tune in next time for more Tech Talk.
Dan here from VectorSigma.info. We wanted to take this moment to thank all of our patrons for believing in the service we're providing. If you're not yet a member of the Patreon, feel free to click on the link for other podcasts like this one, or verse videos, or any of the other great content that we provide on our YouTube channel. Thanks, guys.